Life after death. Eyewitness accounts.
When I was a young single woman living in my hometown London, England, I was admitted to Memorial Hospital with serious complications after a failed abortion attempt in the bathroom of my apartment. Being raised Catholic, I sought to deal with unwanted pregnancies in secret and alone. After losing a lot of blood and feeling very cold, I called an ambulance to take me to the hospital. As soon as I was rushed to the emergency room, I remembered how all the staff ran into my room with carts of equipment, bottles, pumps, needles, bandages, tubes, etc. from the navel and below. I was covered in blood and very weak. I was in a life-threatening, very critical condition. As the blood drained from my body, so did my will to live. I heard a clap sound, and suddenly the pain stopped. For the first time in 3 months, I felt calm since I found out about my pregnancy from a man who lied to me, saying that he loves me and wants to marry me, but who has a wife and 5 children in another city. I had a very clear picture of my body as they furiously worked on me, putting in transfusions and other tubes. I remembered thinking that I just wanted them to stop. I looked terrible and my color was very bad. I was ashamed to be the cause of all this panic. I have sinned and did not deserve to live. The fact that I had these thoughts while only inches from the ceiling didn't bother or embarrass me as much as the feeling of stress I caused in those below me. I also know that I was fully conscious. Although I heard a nurse, the only one in a blue coat, tell the doctors that I passed out shortly after I was admitted to the emergency room. I was very knowledgeable about every detail of the events and the room. I realized that a tunnel suddenly appeared and I was pulled into it. I was happy to be away from that tense scene downstairs. I swam towards the tunnel and went straight through the ceiling fan and then the ceiling. The blackness of the tunnel seethed, and I began to pick up speed. I was curious about my current body or shape and looked at my arms and hands. They seemed to expand and emit a faint glow. I felt a rush of air and a low humming noise like vibration as I picked up speed, heading towards a bright light far in the distance. As I picked up the pace, I felt a presence next to me that comforted me and radiated love and wisdom. I didn't see anyone, but I felt the essence of my grandfather, who died when I was 13. I was aware of his comforting presence, but I didn't see or hear anything. I finally reached the end and floated to a place that was overflowing with a radiant white light that seemed to embody all the concepts of love. Love that was unconditional and like that of a mother to a child. It was definitely a warm, joyful presence, the one that drew me into the tunnel in the first place. It was like a gigantic force field or energy that radiated every good and noble emotion known to man. I left the ways of the Catholic Church as soon as I graduated from parochial school at 17. Feeling like I had been released from a hard prison and far from religion, but in my heart I knew it was God. Words cannot describe my reverence for this presence. It seemed that I became a part of the light, and then the light became a part of me. We were one. I suddenly realized, without question, how interconnected we are all with each other. God and all life forms in the universe. I remember at the time wondering if I would be punished for killing my child and killing myself in the process. I could tell that He knew my every thought and feeling. The next thing I realized was that I saw a sleeping child that I knew was me. I watched with admiration as I saw the highlights of every phase of my life. It was like watching a circular movie screen with many different scenes flashing by at high speed. Somehow, I was able to see and understand not only what was happening, but also the feelings I had at the time, as well as the emotions I evoked in others. I watched and felt the shame of my mother when she gave birth to me out of wedlock, up to the delight of love and the crushing pain of rejection and betrayal. I understood the fear and insecurity of the man who had hurt me and his own guilt when he broke up with me after learning of my pregnancy. I felt every good or bad thing I ever did and the consequences for others. It was a difficult time for me, but I was supported by unconditional love, and I endured all the painful moments. I was asked telepathically if I wanted to stay or go back to my old life at the Earth School. I fell to my knees to show my desire to stay with him. He showed me a beautiful shiny bubble that was floating next to me. In it, I saw a tiny baby who was breastfeeding. The child turned into a baby and began to approach me, still inside the bubble. Then the image of a little boy turned into a teenager, and he continued to age until he became an adult man. I asked, "Who is it?" "Your son Michael," was the answer. I remember feeling a huge sense of relief that I hadn't robbed him of his chance at life. A flood of terrible thoughts swept through my mind. I was not even married and could barely support myself. How could I raise my son? Will he ever forget or forgive me for trying to have an abortion at 4 months old? How could I ever do this on my own without help? I saw a flash of myself with the man I knew to be my future husband. And he was holding the 2-year-old boy I saw in the photo. For the first time, I allowed myself to feel love for the child I was carrying. All the embarrassment, difficulty I used to justify my abortion seemed very weak and selfish to me. Suddenly, I returned to my body, and a burning pain shot through the lower part of my body. The same nurse in the blue coat gave me an injection and told me to relax. That the painkillers would soon take effect. It seemed that I was unconscious for no more than a few minutes, but my visit to the other side seemed to last several hours. While out of my body in the emergency room, I noticed a red mark on the side of the ceiling fan blade facing the top of the ceiling. When I was taken to the recovery room, I was told that my baby was saved. I said, "Yes, I know." I asked if anyone could please listen to my incredible experience and was told they didn't have time. My doctors said it was a miracle that they were able to save the baby with me. I tried to tell them about my experience, but they were called. Their farewell smile left no doubt that they felt like they were wasting their time listening to the drug-induced ravings of a crazy woman. My mother arrived later with religious reinforcements, trying to get a confession. I was slightly amused when a nun appeared and began to pray for me, asking God to forgive me. I knew that I was already forgiven. My punishment was caused by my own emotions of guilt and shame, which I experienced so painfully while watching a movie about my past life. Only one nurse in the hospital listened to me. She did so after I told her a few details about what she had told the doctors and nurses while I was unconscious. She talked about what she heard about other people who were brought back from death's door, with similar stories. I finally convinced her to take the high ladder and see for herself the red sticker I detailed the appearance of on the hidden side of the emergency room ceiling fan. The nurse and orderly saw the sticker, confirming all the details of her appearance that I described. I knew what I knew, but it made me feel better that at least 2 people believed me. I never mentioned this experience again until now. With optimism, with a completely new attitude, I went ahead in life, and after 5 months I gave birth to a healthy boy, whom I named Michael. The damage I did to myself prevented further pregnancies, but the psychic and love connection I experienced with Michael is truly a valuable gift from above. This experience remains as real and vivid as it was 34 years ago and has changed my life in many spiritually uplifting ways.
See also other interesting videos about life after death on our channel.